Hello everyone, welcome to the KZGN News. Today we'll bring you news from the City Council, news concerning veterans, today's KZGN Talking Points editorial, and much more.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyokern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Whitnick. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. The Ridgecrest City Council meets tomorrow evening at City Hall. The meeting starts at 6 p.m. Tomorrow's agenda is as follows. In the presentations part of the meeting, the Council will provide a presentation of certificates of achievement to the members of the Indian Wells Valley Youth Baseball Pony Division Team Council. On the consent calendar, the Council will consider the following. Approving authorization to award a construction contract to CS Legacy Construction for the construction of improvements to the existing Public Works corporate yard site. The low bid was from CS Legacy Construction for the amount of $870,000. Next, they'll consider approving authorization to award a construction contract to JTS Construction for the construction of a bus maintenance garage, vehicle service station, new bus carport, and existing building remodeling. With Council approval, a purchase order will be issued to JTS Construction in a total amount of a little more than $1.5 million. Then they'll consider authorization to award a construction contract to JTS Construction for the construction of a concession stand at Kerr-McGee Sports Complex. The award will be for $348,500 for new concession stands. Then in the main part of the meeting, they will have the following items for discussion. The Council will discuss approving budget amendments, adjusting appropriations and estimated revenues in the annual budget. This is the item where the Council has to make about $790,000 in budget cuts. On the possible chopping block is for police officers. I'll be discussing that in today's editorial. And finally, they'll be reviewing a request from the China Lake Museum Foundation for a donation of $50,000 from tax allocation bond funds. So remember, tomorrow evening, the City Council meeting at 6 o'clock in City Hall. Now here's the notes from the City of Ridgecrest concerning this attack by black bugs everyone is seeing in town. As you can see, we are experiencing an invasion of beetles. We have been doing so for more than 9 weeks. There are millions of them, and there is nowhere in the valley that is immune to them. We understand that water and cold are their greatest deterrent. We will probably have neither in the immediate future. Meanwhile, we are actively seeking solutions from the Departments of Fish and Game and Fish and Wildlife, from our county and state departments of agriculture, and from the Navy. We have tried different options and are still seeking others. According to Dave Haviland at the University of California at Davis, they are drawn from the desert by light, which we have already seen. Thus, many of our businesses are reducing or eliminating their light footprint. That is impossible for our stores, restaurants, hotels, and motels to completely do. These bugs are common in the Sonoran Desert, and until this year, we never saw them. Haviland says it was a perfect storm, a light winter, some rain early spring, and the drought made it perfect for these beetles. There is no known natural enemy except the praying mantis. According to experts, they are harmless to humans and pets, not a good answer when they are in our homes, offices, and our businesses. Pesticides do not help much and are only able to repel them for a very short period of time, and then the beetles are back in greater numbers. The businesses are clearing them as quickly and as often as needed, which seems to be a never-ending process. In exciting veteran news, the Memorial Wall exhibit is coming to Ridgecrest. Members of the Patriot Guard Riders are making preparations to bring the Remembering Our Fallen traveling memorial wall to Ridgecrest on August 31st. We are working with Patriot Productions and the American Legion Riders to escort the wall here, said PGR member Christina Whip. We are making it an open ride for anybody. They can participate with a car or motorcycle. We will go to Camp Pendleton the night before it comes. Lodging will be provided for those who ride. The next day we will bring it up to Ridgecrest, and then we will help the Marines set it up. Which said Ridgecrest is the first city to provide a full escort of the wall since its unveiling at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. The cost for bringing the wall here was $1,000. Said Witt, we have raised above and beyond that, so we are hoping to be able to present a check to Remembering Our Fallen when it gets here. I couldn't have done this without the community. It was pretty humbling to see that kind of support. The wall contains pictures and names of more than 700 California veterans who lost their lives to the War on Terror since September 11, 2011. Witt reported that one of the photo memorials belongs to Bill Williams, a former Ridgecrest resident, and his family will be in town for its arrival. According to Remembering Our Fallen's website, the inspiration for the wall came to Williams of Patriot Productions after he read a story about a father whose pain and grief were even greater 4 years after his son had died in Iraq because he felt that his son had been forgotten. It is a very personal exhibit, said Witt. You see the face, you see the name, and you can leave notes on the exhibit. To volunteer to ride with the escort, call Christina Witt right away at 760-382-4327. Now this from the Ridgecrest Police Department. As summer winds down, the Ridgecrest Police Department is ramping up its enforcement efforts as part of a national crackdown on drunk driving. The 18-day high-visibility campaign, Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over, is a partnership with the California Office of Traffic Safety to curb impaired driving and save lives. From August 21st to September 7th, Labor Day, law enforcement partners in Kern County, across the state, and nationwide will show zero tolerance for drunk driving. Increased state and national messaging about the dangers of drunk driving, coupled with checkpoints and increased officers on the road, aim to drastically reduce the toll of drunk driving. And what a toll it is. In 2013, there were more than 10,000 people killed in drunk driving crashes. Almost a third of all traffic fatalities, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. In California, 867 people died in drunk driving collisions. 38% of crash fatalities last Labor Day weekend involved drunk drivers with a blood alcohol content of 0.08% or higher. And we're not just talking about a little bit of alcohol either. More than a quarter, 27% of the crash fatalities that occurred on Labor Day weekend involved drivers with BACs of 0.15 or higher, almost twice the illegal limit. Ridgecrest Police Department kicks off this Friday night by deploying one DUI driver's license checkpoint during the first weekend, along with a special DUI saturation patrol. DUI enforcement will continue through Monday, September 7th, with more DUI enforcement on August 29th. Data shows that repeat offenders are an especially dangerous facet of the drunk driving problem. In the month of August from 2009 to 2013, of the drunk drivers involved in fatal crashes, almost 10% of them had already been convicted of at least one drunk driving offense. Law enforcement emphasizes the preventable nature of drunk driving, reminding everyone that all it takes is a little planning ahead. Designate a sober driver or call a cab, but whatever you do, don't drink and drive. The California Office of Traffic Safety Designated Driver VIP mobile app is now available for free. Download on iOS and Android devices. Launched last year, the new DD VIP app offers enhanced features allowing users to map a spot with their current location to find DD VIP partnering establishments in their area or a list of spots to search all participating bars and restaurants throughout California. Users will be offered free incentives at each bar to celebrate their life-saving role. They can stay up to date with the latest from DD VIP and see what other users are saying via its social tab. Recent statistics reveal that 30% of drivers in fatal crashes had one or more drugs in their systems. A study of active drivers showed more tested positive for drugs that may impair driving, 14%, than did for alcohol, 7.3%. Of the drugs, marijuana was the most prevalent at 7.4%, slightly more than alcohol. Everyone should be mindful that if you're taking medication, whether prescription or over-the-counter, drinking even small amounts of alcohol can greatly intensify the impairment effects. So this August and year-round, remember that there's no excuse for drunk or impaired driving. If you choose to break the law, police, sheriff, and CHP officials will see you before you see them. Drive sober or get pulled over. Funding for this special campaign is provided by a grant from the California Office of Traffic Safety through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, who reminds everyone, report drunk drivers, call 911. Now stay tuned for KZGN's Talking Points editorial when we come back. Thanks for staying with us. Now it's time for the 69th KZGN News Talking Points editorial. Here's today's topic. Should the City Council reduce the police force from 32 to 28 sworn officers? But first, a couple comments about last editorial titled, Is the Road Ending for Hillary Clinton's Run for the President Because of Emailgate? Harry wrote, the FBI has Hillary's server and has been wiped clean. No surprise. She is digging in a deep hole and will eventually be buried in it. She is done. Sharon wrote, and yet Clinton acts like she is above the basic rules and laws of handling classified documents and sensitive information. I feel that she has violated the same law that makes keeping classified documents at an unauthorized location a misdemeanor and failed to maintain a complete archive of her emails while in office. If the DOJ finds violations and U.S. Attorney General does not prosecute, the American people will know a Clinton is again getting special treatment. Well, I couldn't agree more. What's interesting is we received no comments supporting her. Oh, and I'm hearing other pundits using the email gate term and even comparing this to Nixon's Watergate saga. Well, on to today's topic. Should the City Council reduce the police force from 32 to 28 sworn officers? Well, I'll start right off commenting this would be a big mistake. I would like to mention that these comments are my own. I did not confer with the chief or any officers making this editorial. My comments are based on my actual observation, my training in police procedures. This proposed reduction is bad for a number of reasons. Here's just a few of those reasons. This will reduce response time. This could reduce actual officers available at one time to maybe 2 officers, and since most dangerous calls for service requires 1 lead officer and 1 backup officer, then they will only be able to handle 1 call at a time. I have seen times where they are handling 3 or more calls at the same time. Like I just said, their ability to handle more than 1 call at a time could suffer greatly. There will be no effort to prevent crime. All time will be reacting to crime versus trying to prevent crime. Over time, costs will skyrocket. Coverage and sick and vacation leave will reduce available officers. Attrition and recruitment time will ultimately actually reduce the available force even more. Officers may be more inclined to look for work at more stable departments. Right now, there are some categories of crime that is going up. That would be the worst time to reduce the workforce. Right now, day to day, there are many things that reduce available officers for the calls for service. I am a volunteer and see how many calls they have to respond to daily. There are times when even with the current staff, calls for service back up. There are times when calls that would normally be appropriate for a backup officer to be there, that there isn't backup available because of the need to respond to another priority call. Oftentimes, officers are out of service because they are in court. Sometimes they are transporting prisoners to Bakersfield. Calls to handle family disputes involving children and child protective services can take a very long time to handle. Handling large traffic accidents can reduce many officers for traffic control. There may be more of a tendency to cite and release low-level criminals instead of taking them into custody. The use of volunteers and the reserve officers may become more necessary. As being a volunteer for over 4 years, I have seen a lot. I see how hard these officers already work. Put yourself out there in their shoes. Be out in this unrelentless heat we have during the summer. When you add the 25 pounds of gear they normally wear on duty, these officers go home hot and tired every day. A shortage of officers will most likely result in officers working a lot of overtime. Again, the extra hours will wear them down and possibly affect their effectiveness as a person sworn to protect and serve us. A mentally and physically tired officer is not a good officer. It's not good for us, and it's not good for them. When an officer is on the street, they need to be acutely aware of everything going on around them at all times. A seemingly routine call can turn into a serious call in an instant. The officer needs to be mentally and physically on the top of their game for the whole shift. To reduce the sworn workforce by 4 officers, or 13% of the workforce, is a huge reduction. I know the budget needs to be cut to have the city have a balanced budget. Find another way to balance the budget. Balancing the budget by putting the public at risk is not acceptable. In conclusion, I think we're already at the absolute minimum. Any further reduction would be a huge mistake. I implore the City Council to not reduce the force by 13%, which is from 32 to 28 sworn officers. I'm Tom Whitnick, and that's what I think. I'd like to know what you think. If you have any comments about this editorial or would like to discuss or recommend a topic, I'd like to hear from you. Please email them to info@kzgn.net. And now stay tuned for weather and sports when we come back. Thanks for staying with us. Let's go to Keith for the weather.
Thank you, Tom. The National Weather Service expects a slight risk of severe weather. The area of greatest concern extends from western Great Lakes and into the southern plains. Primary risk with these storms will be damaging winds and hail. However, an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out. Temperatures across the nation. North Carolina came in at 84, Georgia 77, Arkansas 86, New Mexico 74, and Los Angeles at 70. And for us locally here in the IWV, we have a health advisory for smoke from the Walker fire that is causing a health advisory. People with breathing issues should stay indoors. And for our local forecast, tonight mostly clear with a low around 73, west wind 10 to 15 miles per hour with gusts as high as 20. Wednesday, sunny and hot with a high near 107, west-southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Wednesday night, mostly clear with a low around 72, west-southwest wind 5 to 10 miles per hour with gusts as high as 15. Thursday, sunny and hot with a high near 105, northwest wind 5 miles per hour. Thursday night, mostly clear with a low around 72, west-northwest wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. And on Friday, sunny and hot with a high near 103, southeast wind 5 miles per hour. And that is a look at your forecast for the IWV. Now back to Tom and the rest of the KZGN News.
Thanks, Keith. Now let's go to Tom Heck with sports.
And a very pleasant Tuesday afternoon to everyone. Let's talk about Burroughs High School football. Burroughs last week on Friday night had their annual inter-squad scrimmage. All three levels played, the freshman, JV, and the varsity. According to Todd Mather, things went rather well. Pleased by a lot of what he saw. The team will get a pretty good test this Friday. A couple days from now, they'll be down at Sierra Linda, which is down in the Newhall area, for a scrimmage. And all three teams will participate in that. Last year, the Sierra Linda was up here for the scrimmage. They're returning the trip. The scrimmage starts on Friday afternoon at about 3 o'clock. Then it's for keeps. The 28th on a Friday night against Palmdale. All three teams will be in action. The freshmen will play on Thursday at home. The JVs will be on the road. And then on Friday night, it'll be Palmdale. The Falcons come in, one of the better high school teams in all of the Lancaster High Desert area. Last year, third round CIF is where the Falcons played. The year before, they got to the semifinals. They are a very usually skilled team and have 2 or 3 very good seniors. More on them a little bit later as we go. Volleyball also starting to get underway. They'll play their first match in about 3 weeks with Coach Michelle Lazaro in her 9th year now at the helm of the volleyball program. And Cano Prince with his tennis team, they'll open up with a scrimmage next week. Okay, let's take a look at Major League Baseball. The White Sox and Angels last night in Anaheim. The Angels come up with a 2-1 win. Luis Pujols hit home run number 555. Andrew Haney got his 7th win of the year. Boy, he has been a great rookie. He only allowed 1 unearned run, and the Angels went on for a 1-run victory. Now that compiled with a Houston loss. The Astros got beat pretty bad at home 9-2 by Tampa Bay. It's now a 2.5 game lead for the Astros, with the Texas Rangers, who won last night 4-3 against Seattle, breathing down the Angels' necks. They're only 1/2 game back, and they only trail Houston by 3 games. Who would have thought? And I'm going to say it now. I think the Rangers might be the team, if the Angels don't, that'll win the West, even though your heart's got to go out to Houston after all the tough years they have had. I just don't think Houston's got the horses to end up winning this thing. But we'll see. You never know until it's over. Cleveland a winner last night. They beat Boston St. Louis over San Francisco. Dodgers have a 3-game lead in the West. The Dodgers tonight will be at Oakland. They'll start a 3-game series up in the Bay Area. Poor Oakland, they got swept all 4 games in Baltimore over the weekend. The A's really struggling. Padres a winner last night. The Yankees win. They have a 1-game lead over Toronto in the East of the American League. And Arizona has a win at Pittsburgh. The Pirates right now and the Cubs would be the 2 wild card teams from the National League if things started today. Okay, San Diego quarterback Phillip Rivers has said he wants to stay in San Diego, and he proved it the other day. He signed a long-term contract with the Chargers, $65 million. Quite a nice chunk of change on a payday for the San Diego quarterback. Now, he said he really likes San Diego, but do the Chargers like San Diego? Chargers may end up in L.A. next year if they get their wish. So we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, Phillip Rivers will be a Charger, whether it's LA or San Diego. And on a very note of hope, Boston Red Sox manager John Farrell was diagnosed with cancer, and he has started his treatments. Now, it was kind of amazing how they found out. He was in the dugout, and he reached over to get his bag. He lifted it, and he strained himself, so he went in to have basically a hernia procedure, and they discovered the cancer there. But they say it's in the early stages. Recovery looks very good for John Farrell, and a lot of baseball has reached out in his corner to support John Farrell through his dilemma. In fact, Terry Francona, the Cleveland Indian manager, the Indians are in Boston right now, he accompanied John Farrell to his chemo treatment and therapy. How about that? That's I think a great, just a great gesture by a great manager in Terry Francona. So let's wish the best for Farrell. Red Sox struggling this season. They are in last place in the East. That's your sports for this Tuesday. I'm Tom Heck for KZGN.
So that's the news for today. Office of KZGN-TV, know you have a choice in what you watch for news. We all thank you for choosing KZGN-TV, Ridgecrest's only locally owned community TV station. Coming up next, Ridgecrest Talk.